Have you ever apologized for something that wasn't even your fault? Someone bumps into you, and somehow you're the one saying, sorry. Someone interrupts you, and you say, sorry. Someone takes 3 days to reply to your message, and when they finally answer, you're the one apologizing for bothering them. If that sounds familiar, stay with me, because today we're talking about the psychology of people who apologize too much. And the truth is, most people think excessive apologizing is just being polite. But psychology tells a very different story. In many cases, those little sorries are hiding something much deeper, something most people never notice. And by the end of this video, you might understand yourself in a way you never have before. Let's be fair. Apologizing is not a bad thing. When we hurt someone, make a mistake, or do something wrong, apologizing is healthy. It's how we repair relationships. It's how we show respect. But people who apologize too much aren't just apologizing when they've done something wrong. They're apologizing for existing. They're apologizing for asking questions, apologizing for speaking, apologizing for needing help, for taking up space. And that's where the difference begins. For them, sorry becomes more than a word. It becomes a habit, almost automatic. They don't even realize they're doing it. Their brain learns that apologizing makes situations feel safer. It starts using apologies everywhere, like a shield, like emotional armor. And here's the strange part. Most excessive apologizers are actually very kind people. They're thoughtful. They care about others. They don't want conflict. They don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. But sometimes, kindness isn't the real reason they're apologizing. Sometimes, fear is. And once you understand that fear, everything starts to make sense. Many people who apologize too much share one hidden belief. I don't want to be a burden. Now think about that for a moment. Not, I don't want to hurt people. Not, I don't want to be rude. But, I don't want to cause problems. So they apologize before anyone can accuse them of being difficult, before anyone can get annoyed, before anyone can reject them. It's almost like they're trying to make themselves smaller, less noticeable, less demanding, less inconvenient. They ask for something and immediately say, sorry. They express an opinion and immediately soften it. They need help and immediately feel guilty. And over time, this creates a painful pattern. Because no matter how much they apologize, they never fully feel safe. The fear remains. What if they're still annoying? What if they're still too much? What if most people secretly resent them? Most people around them never see this inner struggle. They only hear the apology. But underneath every unnecessary sorry is often a fear of being unwanted. And that fear usually doesn't appear out of nowhere. It often starts much earlier in life. And this next part explains why. Many excessive apologizers learned very early that making mistakes felt dangerous. Maybe they grew up around highly critical people. Maybe every mistake was pointed out. Every accident became a problem. Every disagreement became a conflict. So the brain adapted. It learned. If I apologize quickly, maybe I can avoid trouble. Maybe I can avoid disappointment. Maybe I can avoid rejection. Over time, apologizing becomes a survival strategy, a way to keep peace, a way to stay safe. And even when those childhood situations are long gone, the habit remains. The adult continues apologizing, not because danger is still there, but because the brain never got the message that it's safe now. And this is what makes excessive apologizing so tricky. The behavior continues long after the original reason disappears. The person isn't responding to the present. They're responding to old emotional memories. And what makes it even harder is that most of them don't realize it. They simply think, this is just who I am. But there's another reason people apologize too much. And it's something many overthinkers will recognize immediately. Let's be honest. Almost everyone wants to be liked. That's normal. But for some people, being liked feels necessary. Not just nice, necessary. Their self-worth becomes tied to approval. If someone seems upset, they panic. If someone becomes distant, they worry. If someone responds differently than usual, their mind starts searching for answers. And often, the first thing they do is apologize, even when they don't know what happened. Because apologizing feels like taking control. It feels like fixing something. It feels like protection against rejection. The problem is, you can't earn permanent safety by apologizing enough. No amount of apologizing can guarantee that everyone will like you. No amount of apologizing can prevent misunderstandings forever. And yet, many people spend years trying to be agreeable, trying to be easy, trying to avoid upsetting anyone. And while that sounds noble, it comes with a cost. Because eventually, they stop asking a very important question. What do I need? And that leads us to one of the saddest parts of excessive apologizing. People who apologize too much often become experts at putting others first. At first, that sounds positive, but over time, something strange happens. They become so focused on everyone else's comfort that they lose touch with their own. They stop expressing disagreement. They stop setting boundaries. They stop saying no, not because they don't have opinions, but because conflict feels uncomfortable. So they stay quiet. They tolerate things they shouldn't tolerate. They accept behavior they shouldn't accept. And when someone crosses a line, they apologize. Imagine how exhausting that becomes. Always adjusting, always accommodating, always shrinking. Eventually, they begin to feel invisible because they've spent so much time making space for everyone else that they stop making space for themselves. And here's the painful irony. The very thing they're doing to gain acceptance often causes them to lose themselves. But there's another hidden reason excessive apologizers struggle, and it has everything to do with anxiety. An anxious brain constantly asks one question: what could go wrong? That's its job. It's trying to protect you, but sometimes it becomes overprotective. It starts seeing danger everywhere. In conversations, in text messages, in facial expressions, in silence. And when anxiety sees possible conflict, it reaches for a familiar tool: apologizing. Because apologizing creates temporary relief. For a moment, the brain feels safer. For a moment, the tension drops. For a moment, the fear settles, but only temporarily. Then, the cycle starts again, and that's why many people who apologize excessively also overthink. The two often travel together. The brain becomes hyper-aware, hyper-vigilant, always scanning, always preparing, always trying to prevent problems before they happen. And honestly, it's exhausting, because you can never fully relax when you're constantly monitoring yourself. But despite all this, excessive apologizers usually possess some truly beautiful qualities, and people rarely talk about that side. People who apologize too much are often deeply empathetic. They care a lot. They think about how their actions affect others. They notice emotional shifts. They try hard not to hurt people. They're usually considerate, gentle, thoughtful. They remember things. They check in on people. They carry emotional weight most people never see. The problem isn't their kindness. The problem is where that kindness is directed. They give compassion to everyone except themselves. They forgive others easily, but judge themselves harshly. They offer understanding to everyone else, but struggle to offer it to themselves. And that's where healing begins, not by becoming less kind, but by becoming equally kind to themselves. Because here's the truth: you do not need to apologize for having needs. You do not need to apologize for taking up space. You do not need to apologize for existing. And the moment someone truly understands that, everything starts to change. But before we finish, there's one final thing that needs to be said. If you're someone who apologizes too much, take a moment and think about your last few conversations. How many times did you say sorry? And how many of those apologies were actually necessary? Maybe fewer than you think. Maybe most of them came from habit, from fear, from trying to keep everyone comfortable. But here's something worth remembering. You are allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to have needs. And none of those things require an apology. Being kind is beautiful. Being respectful is important. But constantly apologizing for your existence isn't kindness. It's self-erasure. The world doesn't need you to become rude. It doesn't need you to stop caring. It simply needs you to understand that your value does not depend on how small you can make yourself. You don't have to earn your right to be here. You already have it. So the next time you're about to say sorry, pause for a second. Ask yourself, did I actually do something wrong? Or am I just afraid of taking up space? That one question might change more than you realize. If this video felt like it was describing you, subscribe, because in the next video, we're diving into another behavior millions of people struggle with but rarely talk about. The psychology of people who think everyone hates them. And once you understand that mindset, you'll start seeing your own thoughts very differently. I'll see you there.